I'm going to record this quite obviously. 1 second. Okay, so we're called to order at 7:04. Just for the recording, Brandon Wark is here, Reese Labrie is here, Mike Seebeck's here, John Hirschman's here, Mason. I just combined your two names, Mason Bishop, Matthias Goodley, Orion Schallhammer, and myself. Is that a full house? I think we've got a full house. Who are we missing? Are we missing anyone? I have to look at my list.
Bennett.
Kyle. We're missing Kyle.
We're missing Bennett too.
Okay. Well, it is, I'm going to give it one more minute. I don't think either of them had said they couldn't make it, but it's been quite the hectic few days. So I could be forgetting something. And meantime, I want to download what Mike had sent over. Why do I always lose this folder? Whenever you have to do the shared with me. Okay, there it is. Yes, I think this is the right one. 1 second. Well, I can download it because I emailed it to you guys. So let me find that. Just download it from the email. Give me 1 sec. Okay, I'm going to pull this up and share my screen. I've got it downloaded. Just got to open up Word. Okay, y'all should be seeing my screen. And I have that. This is what Mike had sent. So there's this extra column to the side because there are comments. So I don't really know how to direct this conversation, except first to see if people do have specific comments. What I'd like to do is just explain my structure a bit, and then we'll start to go through, because Mike did put in some specific comments. And certainly if there are things that folks think should be added to the rationales, or you see some kind of big error, and Kyle is here now, I certainly would like to hear it. I forgot what number I got up to. Obviously, by our final meeting, I'll have a final report to you, but none of you have ever prepared one of these reports. Mike has prepared a ton of them. They take a really long time.
Real quick, I just see one thing is my name is misspelled.
Where?
It's R-E-E-S.
Oh, not Res. Really? You're not
Yeah.
Res? Okay.
And then the B in my last name is
It's
capitalized.
It's supposed to be capitalized.
Yeah.
Okay. I am, because this is like Mike's copy and my master copy, I already did a little more work on it. I'm going to make a note of that here, and I will fix that.
Yeah, all good.
In my copy. Thank you. I don't know how I did that. It's been hectic. Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. So obviously table contents is self-explanatory. There's always an introduction by the committee chair. I decided this time around, particularly since this report is going to be quite lengthy, and generally the reports are, well, last time we didn't print copies for everybody, but I think we're doing notebooks this convention. So I do not want the party to have to pay for color copies, you know, to get all of the markup. So I did a print markup legend, but we will have this report available online. People are moving more and more to following along online. So that's why I chose to do two different legends, one for digital, where it'll be in color, and one for print, which will be in black and white to save the party money. And I just note for the record that Bennett Rutledge has joined us as well. Now, with the explanation of the structure of the report, I had to break quite a few of the motions into subparts. It would have just been too much in one. And in nearly every case, as I've stated here, and I'm going to mute you, Bennett, because we're getting feedback, but unmute if you have a comment. In nearly every case, the subparts are dependent on the prior one passing. So like say you have motion, 10A, I'm just pulling a number out of my butt. We don't move to 10B unless 10A passes. There'll be rare cases when that's not the case, but for the most part, that is the case. Because this report would end up being 200 pages long, and I think more text can look like a wall of text to people and be confusing, because a lot of our changes were extensive and scattered rather than just changing a sentence here. It was not graceful in every instance to use the 3-column markup, which I know Mike's not crying that I don't use. I happen to be a fan of it, but it just doesn't work for this report. But it would just triple the size of this report if for every proposal I went, this is how it's presently worded. This is the markup. This is how it'll look if these things are changed. It is, to me, obvious from the markup, what the changes are, but on the more extensive ones, like the revamping of membership, I did include, this is how it will look if passed, because those things are a little bit more complex and people, I do think, needed to have it on the screen, but I did not do that for every proposal. This report would be like the size of War and Peace if I did that for every proposal. Also, if you notice in the legend, normally we just have red and blue, but because we kind of went through a process where we changed a section, and then if that change passes, we're changing it further later, that we needed a way to indicate so that people don't get confused, as even people on the committee do when we're looking at language. Sometimes people go, didn't we change that already? And I'm like, well, we proposed to change that already. It's not changed until it's actually passed. So I needed a way, and it's using the bold purple italics with either an underline or a strike through to show whether this is an earlier proposal. You'll see examples of that. It'll make more sense when I show you one. So now I'm just going to go through the report, and there's a first comment here. And this is the order. So before we go on to the report, if you look at the table of contents, even though I only started writing out up through proposal 12, I did order them all. This is the order I intend upon presenting them in. So that work's been done, even if I didn't write them all yet. But the table of contents does have the order as I intended. Okay, first one. And there probably are some clarification motions we may have to do today. Like I think Mike raised a good question. Are we going with convention rules or convention standing rules? Because it seems like we called them both. I believe what Roberts calls them is convention standing rules. So I agree with Mike that that's what we should go with, but want to make sure that nobody really has an objection to that. Mr. Seebeck?
Yeah, when I noticed that, I took a walk through this first proposal, And we had spots in there in like the mandate and rationale where we called them standing convention rules. So I switched that around too, just to be consistent.
Okay. And I want to look up, I just want to make sure that is like I am pretty sure that's yeah, if you even look in the index, they're called convention standing rules. So, yeah, I think that's what we should go with. And unless I hear an objection, I'm going to assume everyone's okay with that. That's not a substantive meaning change. It's just a stylistic, and I'll make sure that's consistent throughout. Mike also noticed that we had 2 ands in here that there, because I think what happened is we amended this and forgot, or I forgot to take out an and. So I think we solved this problem just by taking out the and before credentials. Wait, hold on. No, maybe I'm wrong. Let's read this. Introductions of the convention chair, convention secretary, parliamentarian. Yeah, wait, there's a word missing. It should be and appointment of the following. Does everyone agree with that? So that it should read introductions of the convention chair, convention secretary, parliamentarian, and credentials committee chair, and appointment of the following convention officials as needed.
Either that, or do you want to make it a separate item C?
I really don't.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just asking.
I actually don't. I think there's too many. I actually think this and comes out. I think it goes like this. Those 2 ands is what's and. I think that fixes it.
It does.
Yeah, that looks correct to me.
Okay, I will make sure that's in my in the final. And Mike.
Yeah.
We need to. Well, I guess I'm sorry, I'm a bit frazzled. If you guys have been paying attention to what's going on with National, you'll understand it's crazy right now. And Joshua Smith has resigned, if you didn't know. That just happened today. So will these then, Mike, because you worked on this more, be the rules we're going to propose as well?
They would,
Minus the candidate stuff?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Yeah, just the nomination of candidates, which
Yeah, because I was trying to keep them consistent. And then because the partisan public office nominations and balloting and so on aren't applicable for this year, we could call them out of the rules specifically
for
for
this
this
convention.
year.
Yeah, okay. That's what I
Now-
thought. Now, they might be called permanently, depending upon what happens with our legislature.
However, here's the question. Okay, we're missing a proviso here. These, if we were to amend these, if we were to add these in, would they take effect immediately?
If you're saying, if for some, like, if you're doing a hypothetical that this convention amended the ones for this convention, and then we propose this, would this override what they did?
Yes.
Yes, it would. We can add a proviso. I don't think they're going to do that. But provisos are always in order, like they don't go beyond scope of notice type thing. So I would suggest, because I think it'll be super confusing to people to add it in the initial proposal, that if the ones for this convention only are amended, that when I move this, I'll just add in a proviso that they won't take effect until adjournment sine die, that this change won't take effect till adjournment sine die.
Okay, I just want to make sure we don't, well, okay, the original intent on this was to have a set of rules for this year and then for next year and beyond to be massively parallel to each other, except for the where applicable parts being called out as not necessary for this year.
Right.
But if we put these into play on an amendment immediately, and they would override the current rules, if they're exactly the same except for the where applicable parts, then it won't
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And remember, even if I forgot to add the proviso,
Mhm.
standing rules are suspendable.
Sure.
So they could still, the convention delegates can still, if they have the 2/3, suspend them, but I'll remember to do the proviso if they change them. I've never seen, and I hate saying this because this is like so hexing us, but in all the conventions I've been to, you've been to more than I've never seen the
Well, that's
convention.
debatable.
Well, but I meant Colorado ones at least. You've been
Oh,
to
yeah.
far more Colorado conventions than I have. I've never seen, for as much as we love to argue in Colorado, it's amazing to me that we always just pass the standing rules. I've never seen them amended, ever. They've been stable.
I can make an ego comment, but I won't. But yeah, you're right.
So if they do make a difference like this time, I'll be thoroughly surprised. And I don't expect it.
Okay.
Because these have been stable.
Yeah.
For years.
I think it's, I just have a little, I just have that beware of the unexpected change.
No, that's something definitely to be aware of.
Yeah.
So then there's motion 1B, obviously, which is irrelevant if they decide they don't want to add permanent convention standing rules, then we don't have to add the whatchamacallit. And I actually think I'm going to take so that the provision would read, because I think it's just obvious here, and I'm trying not to make this report a million miles long. So I think I am just going to take this part out. It's obvious what we're doing right here. And then third motion C is to change the title. I could have did that all in motion 1B, but I had a feeling it would be divided anyway. People sometimes get funny about titles, so I just kept them divided because they already would be divisible. Okay, proposal 2, adding the dues paying membership. This was complicated. I don't know if you had any. Yep, you found. I'll fix that grammatical error. Or have had paid. Is that the best way to word that?
Yeah, because it is a past participle.
I actually think it's grammatically correct the way it is.
It's not. Have paid on their behalf means that they're paying for themselves in that case, in that reference. Because you're talking about party members who have who are paying. Have had paid means somebody else did it for them, which is what we're trying to get at there.
I'm going to ask everyone else. I think it's grammatic, or have paid on their behalf. It's the referent there, since it says on their behalf, it's obvious it's not them. So it's, I don't know the grammatical phrase here. I'm not good at what the technical terms are, but
Past participle.
no, because I don't think it's a past participle. I think it's like an indirect action. I can't think of the correct term. And we're not using the past tense. We're not saying party members who have paid or have had paid. We're saying party members who pay or have paid on their behalf, which implies that someone else, to me, I think it's correct as it is, but I'm leaving it up to the committee. I think have had paid is a tongue twister. Bennett.
You're muted.
I agree that it sounds strange to the 21st century ear, but I'm an old geezer, and my sense is that have had paid nails down what's exactly meant.
Okay, to me, it's something I'll fight over, leaving it up to the committee. So far, Mike and Bennett are in agreement. Does anyone else have any feelings on this?
I agree with Mike.
So there's three. Okay, unless somebody's objecting, that's what I'll change that to. Again, this is another one that I do think is correct, but I don't mind changing it to the party's nomination, but I think the party nomination means the same thing. Anyone have any strong feelings one way or another?
Well, we got multiple nominations going around, is my argument.
I think the possessive party's nomination sounds more correct.
Okay. Bennett, you still have your hand raised. I don't know if that little yellow
Oh,
hand. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. So I will switch that. Do have the proviso here. Now, because this is such a big change, I did feel it necessary to show people this is how Article 4 currently reads, and if adopted, this is how it will read, because this is one of those big changes where I thought it was important to do that. Then if and only if, concurrent, excuse me, with 2A, there are conforming amendments that are required by motion 2A, which we've gone into, that distinguishes between the different memberships. However, if we go down to motion 2B, and I need to get rid of that big space there. 2B has items that they are required structural amendments, but they're not strictly conforming amendments. A conforming amendment means it has to be that way because one entails the other. There isn't a choice you can make. Like if you say, you know, in the membership section that only sustaining members are eligible to be delegates, then later when you describe delegates, you have to say sustaining members. However, here, when it comes to affiliates, there actually is choices that can be made. And we made the choice that it didn't have to be sustaining members that could request affiliation. They just had to be libertarians. But that's not, that's not automatic. So that's why these aren't conforming changes, because the delegates could disagree here. I don't think they will, but because there's a binary option with here, and that's why these were separated out. Yes, this is supposed to be G. Mike, did you think it was not?
Well, originally the G was stricken out too. So I assumed it was supposed to be G because of the formatting of the bylaws. So I unstruck it.
Okay, yeah. That was probably just Word doing something weird to me, but it is supposed to be G. Yeah.
It probably was, but I wasn't. I wanted to just make sure, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so proposal 3 to revamp the convention language. This is dependent upon proposal 2 being adopted, at least in some form. They might amend it. If proposal 2 fails, I'm skipping 3. Because one thing that proposal 3 will do, if anyone's been watching the LPCO list, you'll note that there's a nonprofit corporation hoop we have to jump through with providing newspaper notice 5 times and things like that. If we add a sustaining membership, then we don't have to do that, and this will make all of that clear, because notice requirements will be slightly different if we have a sustaining membership, because those are the ones who are eligible to be delegates. So if proposal 2 doesn't pass, Perhaps in the future, cleaning up the convention language might be a good idea, but it's not something to mess with this convention if proposal 2 doesn't pass, because it'll be mostly stylistic and we've got other much more substantive things to go to. So if proposal 2 doesn't pass, I'm skipping 3. And because again, this is a significant rearranging, I did the as it currently reads, and if passed, how it will read. And then there are conforming amendments that would be required by this motion, where we referred to one as the annual convention rather than just convention. Here's where the purple comes in. I didn't want people to look here and go, wait, didn't we add sustaining members? This is in purple because this will be a change that will have been made if 2 passed. And I just wanted people to know that it wasn't currently in the language when we wrote the report, but it is contingently in the language based upon a prior proposal. Okay. That's what made this report so difficult, is there's so many of those. Okay, continuing. Provisions for dissolution of the party / disaffiliation from the National Libertarian Party. This one's fortunately simple. Next, provisions for when the party is incorporated. I am actually, I highlighted this for a reason. I realized I changed something that I need to get the committee's approval on. This section, when I was putting it in the report, I realized it wasn't complete. The way it was passed, this last phrase that I just highlighted on the screen wasn't here. The period, it ended at, or hold corporate election shall have no effect on the continued existence of the party, period. I would like the committee's approval, so I am moving to amend something previously adopted to add the phrase, the legitimacy of the elections or decisions made at a valid party convention.
Should there be an or there?
Let me see here. Any corporate status or failure to follow laws to maintain corporate status or hold corporate elections shall have
Keep going.
no effect on the continued existence of the party, comma,
Or the legitimacy of elections, et cetera, and so on. Is what I'm asking.
yeah, I want to read it out loud and
Sure.
comma, the legitimacy,
That's just a fragment.
yeah, or okay, but I don't want 2 ors, so I'm trying to, yeah, I think you're correct. So, or ye old, or the legitimacies of the elections. And what do you think about and? Because
Wait a second.
I
Corporate
mean,
status.
and here, this, because I don't like the or.
Actually, I take it back. That shouldn't mean or. It should be a nor, not an or, right after the comma there. Have
Would
no
it-
effect. No, excuse me. No, never mind. I apologize.
I think or is right, because you need a
is.
neither.
It is. I didn't read it right. Yeah.
So but I think this second or can be and that way we don't have the or.
Yeah. No problem. I think it makes sense.
Okay, so I am asking, so I'm moving to amend something previously adopted to add this additional clarity. Because in reading it, realized that I didn't cover all the bases of all the disputes that have been going on in other affiliates. So is there any objection to this addition? Okay, hearing none, moving on. At audit committee, I believe you had a question here. Okay. Mike asked, reporting to who? The board, the delegates, the state. to me, it was to anybody that might need this information. When I wrote this, I made it intentionally vague, but if you have a motion to amend this, Mike, certainly.
Well, I wasn't here when this one was passed. That's why I was kind of asking the question. I wasn't sure what the intent was there.
Yeah, my intent was to whomever it may concern. So just reporting findings.
Then we can just leave it.
Okay. Okay, continuing, add assistant treasurer. That's simple. Revise job description of treasurer. Again, this is in purple because it's a prior proposal. This language will be in here if the audit committee thing passes, but we'll still be moving this whether the audit committee passes or not. I think the only one is dependent upon the other is the convention revamping with the restructuring of membership. Here's Bennett's standardized pledge language. Here's the one allowing affiliates to nominate candidates. Hopefully the state doesn't screw us out of this once we're allowing affiliates to do this. Hopefully we'll still be allowed to nominate candidates at conventions. Next, delete development groups, and then there's conforming amendments that go with that because development groups are mentioned in the affiliate. Now, I know everyone's going to go, the word affiliate development director is still there. At this point in the report, we haven't gotten to where we're deleting that word. And even deleting development groups doesn't necessarily mean the title would change because you're developing affiliates, not affiliate groups. I just wanted to make it clear why that wasn't in purple yet, because we haven't gotten to that amendment yet. And also same thing with these committees. That committee language is still in there because we haven't gotten to that amendment yet. But there's two spots that development groups are mentioned elsewhere in the bylaws. You know, one is obviously in the affiliate development director or affiliate director job description, and then also in the obligation of the board to attend meetings. 12, eliminate affiliate representatives provision and further codify disaffiliation notification requirements. I made a decision to put these two together. The delegates can divide these, but I thought they were related. And I do think they could easily pass together, though the delegates can divide this, but I chose not to. So 1 second. This then we deal with a disaffiliation hearing and a separate proposal. This is just on how we notify of a potential disaffiliation. I got to take out that blank page. Here's where we're adding the hearings for disaffiliation. So then the prior proposals in purple, because if it passes, that language will be in here. But this is not dependent upon the prior one. Even if proposal 12 fails, we will move on to 13 because having a hearing is independent of how we notify them. We could still have the shitty notification requirement, and a hearing is still an improvement no matter what. It's not dependent.
It's damned important.
Yeah. I hope we get the better notification requirement, but one's not dependent. They're related, but not dependent. Next, elect convention related committees. And I think this is one where I also said, no, I didn't, because I think since it's a complete substitute, it's obvious. There's a proviso here that Mike pointed out we needed, that if this is passed, we will have to elect a style committee elections. I did.
Wait, that may not be true now, because as we were discussing earlier, if if the ones that we're proposing for the standing rule, convention standing rules pass, and they do wind up overriding the current ones, there's a section in there where it says election of specific committees when applicable. This would suddenly be applicable. So the agenda may not have to be changed because it's in the standing rules. We would just have to make a note that that all of a sudden comes into play.
But since they adopted the agenda, I don't know. I think it's safer just to stick this proviso in here rather
That's
than
fair.
trying to explain that.
That's fair. I mean, we can do it that way and play.
I think it will
play on the
sound
safe
like
side.
parliamentary voodoo if we,
Yeah, we can keep it and be clear. So,
yeah,
and if somebody asks, I can talk to it. That's
okay,
all. So this was my proposal anyway.
yes. And you're parliamentarian at this convention, so add officer designations. Then clean up director duties and description. Oh, something I wanted to point out here. If this passes part of the motion when we pass this at the meeting, I didn't do it in markup because all it is moving something and it would just have gone crazy. So it's just in the motion. If this passes, we would rearrange the listing of directors in Article 6, Section 3 to start with the 4 officers. Right now, I think it's weird the way it is right now because it goes chair, vice chair, kind of recognizing them as officers, and then everyone else is alphabetical with secretary and treasurer at the end.
Was
So
it alphabetical or an order of election listed?
no,
in there?
the listing of duties is alphabetical,
Really?
except
Okay.
for chair and vice chair. So
Interesting.
if we add this article on state party officers, the first 4 listing in the duties will go chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer, and then the rest will all be alphabetical the way they have been. Just wanted to note that I had that in the motion. Okay, this is cleaning
In
up.
this case, that's a style committee thing either, because it's not a substantive change. It's just rearranging things. So,
Yeah, correct.
it's in the same article. Yeah.
Because once you add officers, you have then added this, you
Yeah.
have a rank. Because the way you list your officers lists the rank that they're in, which is the rank that Roberts recommends. Which is why, like, if anyone was at the national convention when Ken Mulman had to step away and he was vice chair because Whitney wasn't there, why the gavel was passed to me, because as he worded it, he goes, as the next highest ranking officer. That's the only time that ever really becomes that important. But that's also why, in the absence of the chair or vice chair, the secretary calls the meeting to order and presides over the election of a chair pro tem. Anyway, so this is something, here is where the committees get deleted and consolidated into paragraph M, but I did add a proviso here. Though I want to ask Mike if he would consider something or if the committee would consider it, but I wasn't messing with your proposal. So I put proviso: if the prior proposal on officers is not passed, subsection M will read except for the chair and vice chair instead of except for the officers. Actually, I'm fine with that. I was going to ask you, Mike, if you'd consider it saying except for chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. I think that gets too wordy. If they don't want to single out officers, just leave it chair and vice chair. I don't care.
Okay, just a quick rollback on this. I'm not saying no. As of right now, the treasurer and the secretary are not empowered to form their
No.
own.
We're
So
not.
with this proviso would just maintain the status quo, whereas if the
If your original language, it would empower the secretary and treasurer to have
Right.
committees.
right. Well, I'm not totally sure I agree with taking that out. I'm okay with this. I can live with it.
Okay. Okay, I haven't done any of these others, but I want to just do the
That's
titles.
where we
to-
stopped. Yeah.
Yeah, to show you the order. So next would be miscellaneous additional director duties. What that was that the chair can reasonably assign additional duties to directors within the scope of their responsibility, and that they need to provide a written report. There were just these little changes we did to duties. That's what would fall under there. Add clarifying language for board turnover. That was one of the last ones we proposed. That was one of Mike's proposals. Same thing with the provisions for suspension, removal of, this should be directors. Same thing, this is one of Mike's, to refine the judicial committee language, change time calculations from months to days, change threshold for deletion of platform planks. That was just to make everything 2/3 rather than one being a majority. This is an issue though. Hold on, let me let Skippy in because he's having a conniption. Come on in. I know you want to be part of this meeting. You too, Zena.
Wayne, walk the dogs.
Yeah, we got 2 more committee members. I want to know if we want a proviso here. I can argue both ways. But I do kind of come down on one thing, but I want the committee to decide. FYI, the platform committee is proposing deletion of a plank. Mike's aware of this. Not everyone is. Do we, and when they originally, and I say they, I'm on that committee as well, but I'm taking off that hat and putting on bylaws hat. When they originally proposed that, it was under the assumption that it would be a majority vote. Do we want to change the rules out from under the platform committee? I can go either way. And say we put a proviso in here that this does not take effect until adjournment sine die. However, now let me argue the other side. If our position is, and my position is, it should be one threshold, then it should be one threshold. It should have always been one threshold. Why are we granting an exception for this case? I'm leaving this up to you guys. If you were to ask me to decide, it's no proviso. If the platform committee wants to delete a plank, it should require 2/3. But I wanted to put that before the bylaws committee because I don't think the 2 committees weren't like on the same page with this at the time we passed this. So it's up to you guys. If someone wants to move to add a proviso with this additional knowledge, feel free. I don't think we should, but I want the committee to make that decision, not me.
On one hand, the sine die thing would be appropriate as a proviso because of the timing of what the convention is. But on the other hand, because there are members on both committees here, me and myself being one of them, if we don't put it in there and this if we do put it in, it could be perceived as saying, oh, they want to have this proviso so they can push through this proposed
Right.
deletion where there may not be the votes at 2/3.
I think it's
The
a bad
safe-
look.
It is a bad look. So the safer route is to skip the proviso, let things fall where they may.
And I firmly do believe that deletion should require 2/3. And to put a proviso, I think undercuts the principled argument that it should be 2/3. And I do think it looks like we're trying to climb up a chute and then pull the ladder up after us. And I
Looks
think
like we're
that's,
trying to run a yellow light. We don't want to do that.
yeah, I think it's a bad look. So unless someone here wants to move a proviso, Mike and I have both already let the platform committee know it's probably going to take 2/3 because I let them know that I wasn't going to be in favor of a proviso, but I was going to leave it up to the bylaws committee. Okay, no proviso. Just so you know, someone on the floor could always move that. And if someone on the floor does that isn't on the platform committee, the report's published. If that's what the delegates want to do, let them move a proviso. They have every right to do that. Allow board to delegate authority. This is so that allows basically hiring of an executive director when the board has funds. Compiler's resolution, if you all, for forgot what that was. This is how we were going to put in Mr. Hirschman's suggestion to have full paths to, I haven't really figured out yet how I'm going to describe this in this proposal, but that's what that is. So that,
I think the best way to describe that is to move the organization of the bylaws from the current article and section thing into an outline format.
yeah, and I think I was going to give like an example, not using actual, just like what the form would look like.
Yeah.
And that would be up to the secretary. Well, I'm actually probably going to end up being the compiler, but whoever ends up compiling these into their final form to be published, they'll have to do that. It'd either be the secretary or the committee chair. So me or Andy Bukovic would probably end up having to do that. And then lastly would be, because we just decided it was too, Mr. Fury brought this proposal, but we were starting to get into revision territory. Going to craft a resolution directing the next bylaws committee to take a look at potentially revamping board structure. And then, you know, that would be onto the next bylaws committee. And that was pretty much it. So, that's where we're at. Whether we're going to get through all of these, I don't know. We've got for sure 4 hours. Even with breaks, we have 4 hours. We have 4 complete hours. So, what I would recommend of committee members, again, I'll finish this and have a draft. I'll make all the corrections we talked about tonight, and I'll have a draft of the complete one for you before our next meeting to do the final approval. And our next meeting is when again? It was a Monday again, wasn't it? No, because wasn't it Super Bowl? Oh, it's Saturday because of Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
So it's what day is today? It's this coming up Saturday is our next meeting, isn't it?
I think so, because next Sunday is Super Bowl.
Yep. So it's Saturday. So I got a lot of work to do. Oh, fun. Okay, but I'll have it to you before then. Once we have a report, I would ask that people within your respective groups, your respective caucuses or whatever, if you support the report, to try to get people on board to have this move smoothly as possible. Colorado Libertarians like to debate though, so smoothly as possible. We obviously are not going to be able to do in Arizona, just close your eyes and say yes. I just still can't believe they did that. Yeah, that's where we're at. Is there any other concerns, questions, comments?
I do have a question, but this may be necessary for, it's not going to be for this report.
Okay.
Because the timing's all wrong. But pending the results of what happens on Thursday with SB 23-101,
Yes.
we may want to mention that on the floor that this happened, and that it may require revisiting those parts of the bylaws in a special convention because of the impacts on 2024.
Yeah. Well, that was the whole point of the special convention provision.
Right, but I think we need to
Yeah.
because it is germane to a bylaws change, and because of what this is happening, it may be necessary to inform the delegates of that, because that also gives them advance warning that there's a good chance that a special convention for which they would be attendees could be coming up.
Because of the potential loopholes in the law, kind of going to
I know.
leave that up to the chair of the party to decide whether he wants to bring it up. Because my personal view, which I think is yours, is if SB whatever passes, as written, that because of the loophole that we just go LOL, okay, and nominate by convention and
Mhm.
force it into a lawsuit.
I tend to agree.
But that's going to be a board decision, whether they're going to even want to talk about that. It gets into board legal strategy. And so
Right.
I'll bring it up to the party chair, and then he can discuss it with the board in whatever executive session they want to do, and they can decide what they want to do.
Mhm.
But you know this more than I do, Mike. I know these things don't get passed. They have to go through multiple hearings.
Mhm.
How
Multiple
far
readings.
apart are these or readings? Yeah, how far apart are they usually?
It does vary by committee and when they meet, and they should have a calendar for that posted on the legislature's website. They don't always put the specific agenda items up very far in advance of the meeting, but they have to post it in advance so people know when to go. Usually has to go through 3 readings within the committee, I believe, before it gets pushed out. I think that's it. I could have that wrong. It could be that it takes 3 readings on the floor, the main floor, rather than the committee. I could have that backwards. But again, the goal is to get this thing killed within the committee first. And the state Veterans and Military Affairs Committee is the kill committee within the legislature. It's the place where bills go to die. And the fact that Democrats control it and a Republican proposed it, hopefully it will lend itself to having it get killed.
Also, second best outcome is to get the references to minor parties struck and just let the major parties fuck with their own stuff.
Yep.
Okay.
Pie in the sky argument is have banned primaries completely, but that's
Yeah,
not gonna happen
that's not
either.
going to happen. And I can't get the representative's office to call me back. I've
Who,
left,
Bradfield? Oh, good luck with that.
yeah,
She doesn't even
I've left
She
numerous
doesn't even have
messages.
an office in her district.
I got, well, the aide for the other one, Kirk, whatever,
Kirk
they didn't
Myers.
call me back. I just happened to catch the aide on the phone. I just kept calling.
Oh, yeah.
But nobody ever picks up the phone at Bradfield's number either.
Oh, yeah, and she does not have a local office in the Fountain Valley. She used to be my rep, folks.
And the
before I
link
moved-
for her
and
email is
poor shit.
broken.
Of course. She is, as I put in one of my analysis, she is a yes woman butt warmer for the establishment GOP. She never actually wanted the nomination in the first place, but they needed somebody because of term limits. And they knew perfectly well that they had to put somebody out there because there was a Democrat running and me. They didn't want to face that type of a combination, especially because that Democrat lived about 4 doors down from me at the time. So they had to come up with somebody, and they kind of penciled her in, and she won anyway because of the nature of the district. If she hadn't if they hadn't run somebody in that district, we'd be having a lot of different conversations about things, and I wouldn't be sitting in Alabama at the moment.
And FYI, just so the committee knows, because we kind of strayed into things that aren't the purview of the bylaws committee. When I post this public meeting, I'm editing that part out because there is some talk of loopholes in the law and stuff that we're not trying to alert.
Yeah, this is off the
People do.
record.
So, going back to the bylaw stuff, is there, within our purview, is there, at least with the half of the report we've looked at so far, further comments, whatever? Otherwise, we'll meet on Saturday to do the final approval.
Just shoot me over when it's pulled up, and I'll take it to the rest of the way on double checking all the formatting and everything.
Yeah, I'll do it as soon as possible. Part of the problem is, though, I'm trying to write up some talking points and
Sure.
stuff too. So it things are, I just can't even.
Fluid is the word you're looking for.
Oh my, yeah, it's things right now. It'll be over in a couple weeks. It's just, this is a really intense couple weeks for me. All right, everyone. So since there's nothing further for this meeting, I'm glad it was short. This is under an hour. I'll see you guys on Saturday. Was it 7 on Saturday?
Oh,
I thought we did. Well, it's 7 on Saturday. Let's just put it that way. I'll shoot out the Zoom link hopefully later tonight. All right, thank you, everyone. Have an awesome night.
Night, everybody.
Good night.
Hi.